Story 1. Good afternoon to everyone who stumbled upon this post. First, some backstory. During my gap year between studies, I decided to work for a company we'll call Company N. This company was run by a husband, Dave, and his wife, Karen, along with their son. They treated their staff like a small family. Everything was going well for about 2 months until I realized I needed to request a day off to attend the last concert of a band that would be performing in my country. Since there was about a month left, I sent an email asking for the day off and explained why. This is where everything started to go downhill. I received a reply from Karen, and her response was strange. She stated that this was not how one should request a day off. I was confused, to say the least. Unsure of what to do, I thought she wanted a more formal request, so I wrote a formal email asking for the day off. She shot back another email, implying I should reconsider my decision, which made even less sense to me. However, I was still hopeful since I never received a clear no. The next workday arrived. I locked up my bike, headed inside, and prepared for work. I immediately started looking for Dave to get some answers. Before I could say anything, he asked, "Do you still want to go to that concert?" Not expecting this, I quickly answered, "Yes." His only response was, "Okay, take off your vest, and you can go home." I was stunned. As the words sank in, I looked at my colleagues who were preparing for the opening. When it finally hit me, I felt a surge of anger. I'm not a confrontational person, so I simply took off my vest, handed it to Dave, and left without a word, biking home. When I got home, I told my mother what had happened. We started sending emails for more information, but Karen's responses were dismissive. After a few emails that went nowhere, I decided to look up the laws regarding immediate dismissal. I learned that in my country, someone can only be immediately fired for serious reasons like theft, fraud, inability to perform the job, or refusal to work. I had done none of these things. A day or two later, I met with my attorney and began the process of suing Company N. I explained everything to my lawyer in detail, and he was confident that I was in the right and Karen was not. After trading even more emails between the three of us, we went to small claims court. I came prepared in a suit, with my attorney by my side. Karen showed up alone. I guess she assumed she had already won because she thought she was in the right. The trial began, and I remained as professional and objective as possible. Karen did the same at least for the first half of the trial. When she realized the evidence was piling up against her, she resorted to calling me a spoiled brat and other things that don't have a direct translation into English. Suffice it to say, that was the point the judge ruled in my favor. As expected, I had to wait a month to receive the official verdict in the mail, but I won. It took about 6 months from the day I was sent home to the day the 6 months' worth of pay was transferred to my bank account. But it was 100% worth it. In the end, I attended the concert. It was the most amazing and profitable concert I've ever been to in my life. Story 2. I judge card games, from local events to world championships. I have even been the head judge at world championships for several games. The town I grew up in had a game store, run by a husband and wife, and eventually, their kids joined in. It was a lot of fun. Every night, the store would be packed, and for bigger tournaments, they would rent out vacant storefronts in the shopping center to accommodate everyone. Eventually, they moved the store to a bigger location, and it just kept growing. People who grew up in the area and played at the store eventually had kids of their own, and they played at the store too. It became a tradition. This was the place where you took your kids to their first role-playing game, or where you bought them their first booster packs. The only Friday nights when the store would be empty were when there was a big football game at the high school. The store was so popular because of the couple who ran it. They were never flashy, but they treated everyone as if they were the best player in the world. They gave away free snacks, sodas, and booster packs for every little occasion, and sometimes just because. They were patient with players, helping them build decks and improve their skills. They also knew how to teach every game they sold in the store. I could walk in any day, and there would be several role-playing game groups and rows of people playing all sorts of games. It didn't matter if I bought anything or not. I could stay from open to close without spending a dime, and they would still treat me like I had spent $1 million. It was, in a word, nirvana. This was also the store where I judged my first event after getting my initial certification. The husband had me judge almost every event, compensating me with half a box of booster packs for smaller events, up to 2 boxes for bigger ones. For one big release weekend, he gave me 6 boxes of booster packs and paid me. His wife was equally amazing and loved her nerds, as she affectionately called us even more than he did. She baked cakes for birthdays, and every day during the week leading up to Christmas, there would be a tin of cookies that she had baked the night before. If people got into a jam and needed a last-minute sitter, they could leave their kids at the store, and she would warn the parents that she would watch them. But she would also teach them collectible card games. I think this is why the store made so much money. There was even a rumor that the store actually belonged to her. Life happened, and I ended up living in a city about 3 hours away. A few years ago, I heard that the wife had passed away, and the husband couldn't bear to be in the store because everything reminded him of her. So, someone else was now running the store. I planned to visit, but being 3 hours away, a casual trip wasn't easy, as a round trip would take 6 hours. Around the middle of last year, the store announced they were going to host a major qualifying tournament. This generated a lot of buzz, with people from all over the region making plans to attend. I thought this would be a great time to visit the store, so I made plans to go. About 2 weeks before the event, I received an email from the game publisher asking me to judge the event. I found this odd because, for store-level events, the store typically provides the judges, and the publisher doesn't get involved. Also, while there are many of us judges, we are a tight-knit community, so I knew there were enough judges in the area to handle the event. I wrote back, saying I was hoping to play in the event, but wondered why the store couldn't field its own judges. They replied, stating that the store owner said he couldn't get anyone, even with a list they sent him. This was a red flag. They ended the email by suggesting I talk to the other judges in the area to get more of the story. I responded, saying I would think it over for a few days. I immediately started contacting the judges in the area. They all told me the same story. The store had been sold to a new owner, who was great, but the problem was the manager. This manager was also a judge, but he thought he knew better than everyone else. He would override obviously correct rulings because he was friends with the person the judge had ruled against. Apparently, this also happened at a major regional tournament. One of the reasons I judge instead of play is that judges are well compensated not just with booster boxes and pay, but also with exclusive promotional items and swag. This troublesome manager was hoarding the judges' promotional items for himself. The judges found out about this after attending a major event where another judge mentioned the great swag he had received. The area judges put 2 and 2 together and realized what was happening. After that, the judges in the area all agreed they wouldn't judge under him ever again. But it didn't stop there. This manager would harass players, telling them they couldn't bring in outside food or drinks, and that they had to buy products if they wanted to play in the store. He would also harass the role-playing game players, telling them they had no life and were wasting valuable time that could be spent playing better games. Needless to say, people tried to avoid him. But since the owner would sometimes run the store himself, no one could be sure when this difficult manager would be around. I was livid. This was the store where I grew up, where I learned to play and mastered all my favorite games. And this person was ruining the store. I started to formulate a plan. I wrote to the publisher and told them I would judge the event. I also asked what the judges' swag would be for this event. They wrote back, grateful that I agreed to judge, saying they would have had to cancel the event if I hadn't. They also detailed what I would receive for judging and mentioned they would throw in something special for me for helping them out. I replied, requesting a specific item. I knew the troublesome manager would definitely want it, and I could use it to catch him in the act. The publisher responded, agreeing to include the item in the tournament kit. The day of the event, I woke up at the early hour of 5 a.m., got ready, and left the house by 7 a.m. for the 3-hour drive to my hometown store. When I arrived, there was already a line wrapping around the store. I greeted people I knew from the store and others I had met at larger events. It felt like a mini homecoming. I walked in and found the new owner, the manager, and 2 other judges there. We went over the plans for the day. The manager started by saying he was a mid-level judge, which made him the highest-ranking judge in the area, so he would be the head judge for the event and his word would be final. I told him that I was a higher-level judge with several advanced roles and qualifications. He accused me of making it up until I showed him my certification. Still, he insisted he would remain the head judge because he was the store manager, and the people in the store respected his authority. I had to stifle a laugh. Then I told him I wanted my judge's swag before starting. Normally, I would receive it at the end of the event because I didn't want to carry it around all day. But given this manager's track record, I wanted to give him as little chance as possible to take what was owed to me. He started stalling, saying he hadn't pulled the kit yet. I told him to pull it, open it, and give me my swag, or I would walk away and inform the publisher, which would invalidate the tournament. The owner tried to reason with me, but I stood firm. I hated doing this to the owner because he hadn't done anything wrong. From what I heard, he was trying to continue the traditions and practices the original owners had established. But I knew I needed to be assertive to save the store's community from this troublesome manager. Finally, the manager came out and gave me my swag. I looked it over and knew this wasn't everything that had been promised to me. I said as much and then pulled up the email from the publisher listing everything I was supposed to receive, including the special item. The manager said he couldn't find it all, and the owner begged me to wait until the end of the event so he could make it right. I stood firm and demanded my items. I listed everything again, including the special item I had requested from the publisher. The manager went pale, and the owner looked at him and said, "You told me you got that when you judged that big event a few months ago." I pulled up the email where I had requested the item, and where the publisher confirmed it would be included and showed it to the owner. The owner was furious. He demanded to see the entire packing list for the kit, and sure enough, my promised item was on it. Then I told the owner everything the other area judges had told me, and he became even more upset. Finally, I told the owner and manager that unless I received everything I was promised by the publisher, I would call the authorities to report the theft and walk out, making sure everyone outside knew what had happened. The owner demanded that the manager give me everything I was owed. The manager walked back and brought out everything that was listed in the email, including the special item. The owner then fired the manager and apologized profusely for what had happened, asking me to please judge the event. I agreed to start the tournament, and apparently, it was the best-run tournament the store had since the change in ownership. No one walked away complaining. All the rulings were fair, and the event even ended early. When I got home, I sent an email to the publisher with the tournament report, along with an explanation of what had happened. I also sent a long email apologizing to the owner for my behavior. The owner wrote back, saying he understood why I did it and was actually grateful I was able to help him see the truth. As for the fallout, the troublesome manager was stripped of his judge certification. The players he tried to help cheat were also given bans from the game. The owner hired one of the area judges to manage the store, and it's slowly returning to what it was before the difficult manager took over. In the grand scheme of things, this wasn't some huge injustice that was righted. But this store is like family to me, and you don't mess with my family. Edit 1. Some of you wanted to know why the new owner didn't know anything. Well, from what people told me, the players never informed him. They didn't think he would believe them. Edit 2. I forgot to mention this, but one of the players in line was a judge, so I went and enlisted them to help judge the event. Story 3. Cast. Me, yours truly. Partner, my business partner. Accounting woman, head of the accounting department at a customer's site. Site director, and all-around good guy with a tough streak. During my time as a consultant, we started having payment problems with one multinational client. Specifically, this one site stopped paying their bills, and their excuses got worse and worse. We had a great relationship with a site director and various executives, but this accounting department suddenly couldn't find its way around even the simplest tasks. After 6 months, it started looking like we would need to hire a lawyer and threaten lawsuits, a terrible idea with potentially bad consequences for repeat business. But then, the accounting woman we liaised with suggested a face-to-face meeting where we would bring all our documents. It was a 3-hour drive each way, and the meeting would probably take 2 hours, but it was a significant amount of money. Fortunately for us, we had just acquired a neat little electronic gadget. To optimize our time there, we set up a meeting with a site director to touch base. The double bonus was that we could cut short a dragging on meeting by mentioning we had to go see the site director. The accounting woman waffled, talked about anything and everything but the issue at hand, and wouldn't say why this was happening. My partner and I exchanged frustrated looks and stood up to leave. She hurriedly got to the point. For an administrative fee, she would ensure that payments were made within the week, a flat-out bribe. We exchanged another look. Me: you seriously want us to pay you to do the job this company is already paying you for? Accounting woman: it would certainly help. Partner: if we get the money to you by the end of the day, you'll unblock the situation. Accounting woman: yes. Partner: I assume you want cash? Accounting woman: yes, cash will be perfect. Me: right, let's go. We left and went straight to the site director's office. He graciously showed a subordinate out so he could meet with us earlier than planned. We pulled out our neat little electronic gadget and played back the recording of the relevant parts of the meeting. Site director: thank you for confirming my suspicions. I'll take care of it. You'll be paid within the week. Partner: you understand we'll be keeping the original recording. You can have a copy. Site director: not necessary, thank you. I'll take care of it. Have a nice trip back. Payment arrived 3 days later, in full. Celebration. A different person became our site liaison. During a future mission at that site, we were informed unofficially that the accounting woman had been promoted to head of warehouse, for which she had no training, and told to sit in a corner and just handle the inventory count already run by computer while her 3-week leaving period ran out the clock. I strongly suspected, based on some interesting questions from our new accounting liaison, that a forensic accounting effort was underway to nail her for professional misconduct and ruin her reputation and unemployment benefits. In short, the accounting woman tried to hold up payments until we would pay a bribe. The site director listened to our recording and took swift action. Notes: I avoided revealing the nature of the gadget to keep the big reveal intact. The site director's reaction was unexpectedly positive and easy. We had figured it would be a shock or meet resistance, but it didn't.